Welcome to The Process, with me, your host, Adam Sommer.
Welcome back to The Process. This is Adam Sommer. I am your host. It is good to be back with you. I'm recording this on January 26th, 2025, so if you hear some information in here and you think, well, that's not quite right, stuff it, because it's probably new stuff that I didn't have when I was doing this. But in all seriousness, always feel free to forward me stuff. Hey, I heard you talk about, XYZ. Did you see this new thing? I love that. You can catch me on Blue Sky. I'm over there. I'm mid-map, dad energy over there. And that's pretty much, other than Facebook, which, I connect with some people on Facebook. I don't necessarily connect with the world on Facebook the same way. But won't find me on Twitter anymore. I got off of TikTok when it was banned and let back in immediately last weekend. My thought is, if it was that easy, then I don't want to be there anymore. So you can find me on Blue Sky, mid-map, dad energy over there. I think the information's in the show information as well. Wherever you're listening to this podcast, you should be able to see the handle there. Or you can connect with me over on Patreon. The Patreon / The Process is over there. Patreon / The Process. You can connect over there. And if you become a member, you can help sustain what this project is. Every penny that comes in goes to just helping me be able to do this project. So I appreciate everybody who supports me over there on Patreon. Not asking for a ton of money, but also understand if you just want to, connect over there for, $1 a month, $12 a year, just to be part of the community and connect with other people who, value this kind of program, this kind of information. It's a great way to do that. And every little bit that goes over there, like I said, goes to making sure that I can do these shows and host it on the web and everything that goes along with it. So thanks for stopping by to The Process for episode 4. This is another one of me talking into the mic. Again, very busy right now and don't have a ton of time to coordinate with third parties to, get interviews done. But there will be more of those, so don't worry about that part. That's coming. But this one, I told you in the last episode at the end, if you listened all the way through, if you're a good student, then you knew that I was going to do an episode about corporations. And so that's some of what I'm going to talk about here, but it's all sort of interconnected. So I'm going to highlight some things that are happening, sort of at home and abroad. For those of you who are maybe new to this or aren't familiar with the old shows, I am based in Missouri, and so when I say at home, here, I'm really talking about Missouri. But I look at things kind of from the Missouri out approach in terms of how I like to look at the political goings-on of the day. So I'm going to look at some more local stuff, and then we're going to talk about some executive order language and get into history of corporate personhood and billionaires. And, I've got some stuff for the end for you. So stick around. That's what I've got for you here on The Process episode 4. And I'll be right back with that part of the show. People are being attacked. It's already happening. We're seeing it. It's not hyperbole. It's not over the top. It's real. It's exactly what a lot of us were pointing out, which is, yeah, I hear you, eggs are a little expensive. I hear you, gas could be cheaper. But eggs and gas don't seem as important to me as, the way we treat each other, basic humanity and dignity and human rights. Those seem more important to me than, the price of eggs and the price of gas. And yet here we are on the other side of that election where eggs and gas somehow masked over everything that Donald Trump was saying, everything he was doing, everything that the people beside him were saying, everything that Project 2025 stood for, which is exactly, by the way, what they've been doing in the first week, is trying to execute Project 2025, which is what, of course, Trump said he didn't even know existed. So everybody who thought, people looked at you like you're taking crazy pills when you talk to a Trump supporter, they were wrong. You were right the whole time. It all happened. It's all still happening, and it'll continue to happen. The one thing I would say there is stop acting so damn surprised about it. We knew this was coming. We knew to expect this. So just start calling out what's coming, right? We know what the playbook is. Instead of being surprised by it, start predicting it. Start thinking about what's coming in it. Here in Missouri, horrible man impersonated immigration officer demanding a visa. Barged into a home and attacked, kidnapped, assaulted. In Colorado, a Pacific Islander journalist strangled while a man invoked Trump's America. Trump's America. Why is the Pacific Islander part relevant? Well, first of all, he's a citizen. Second of all, if you look a certain way and you decide that people don't look like you, they must not be citizens. This journalist has brown skin. He's clearly not Caucasian. And so there you have it. These are real things that are happening. And the only remote silver lining, it's not even really a silver lining, it's just a thing I'll point out, is that by shouting out the Trump's America part, at the very least, these people are putting their intent on the line, and they're making the prosecutions much easier, assuming that the locals, from a prosecution standpoint, aren't, worshiping at the altar of Trump. That's good, right? That they're saying the intent of what they're doing at the very least, so that's helpful. That stuff's going to continue, right? That's the part that was going to happen that we knew was going to be ugly. It's going to be in the news. It's going to be on TV. They're sending troops to the border to, protect the sanctity or whatever. Bullshit. They're sending troops to the border because they're about to start moving bodies. It's going to be on the news. They're going to start moving people, kids, women. It's going to happen. Don't be shocked by it. Be prepared for it. Be prepared for what is coming because it's going to be on your screens. We are going to have Andrew Jackson's presidency in real time. Read up. Know your history because that's what's coming. And we see the ignorance that's going to lead there because we see things like the executive order language in the defending women from gender ideology extremism, which means, by the way, that language suggests that there is gender ideology that is not extremism. So there is acceptable non-extreme gender ideology, but this is a gender ideology extremism, restoring biological truth to the federal government. Biological truth. I've been a lawyer for a while. I went to a Division I, pretty well-ranked law school. I have no clue what any of that means. None whatsoever. Then they get into the actual language of this executive order. And if you haven't read it, the link is in the show notes. It's worth reading it just to see how ridiculous and, just axe grindy crap that it really is. Because it's, it's offensive in its own nature, but it's also offensive because it's just so poorly done. Like they are impressively bad at what they're actually trying to do, which is what gives me just a little bit of comfort. Just a little bit of comfort. The language that they used here, women or woman, and girls or girl shall mean adult and juvenile human females respectively. Okay? So woman, women, girls means human female. What's female? Female means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the large reproductive cell. And then men or man and boys or boy shall mean adult and juvenile human males respectively. Male then means a person belonging at conception to the sex that produces the small reproductive cell. Again, what? But even more important here is that they're using this word language. They're using this word. Even more important here, they're using this word person. It's very interesting. Now, when I point out how stupid some of this language is, of course, I'm met with what about the pardons? What about Joe Biden's pardons? Okay. Whataboutism is the weakest form of argument, first of all, because it's not only is it a false equivalency, which is a weak starting point, it's also nothing more than an attempted deflection without addressing the actual issue. What about the pardons? Okay, here's my response to somebody like that. My actual response. If somebody wants to have that conversation. Look, I'd be happy to talk about pardons with you. I'll talk about Joe Biden's pardons, talk about Donald Trump's pardons of the January 6th protesters who attacked law enforcement. I'll talk about pardons with you all day long. Let's talk about the other issue that I brought up first, because they're not the same issue. They're not the same issue. The pardon issue is an excuse to not talk about something else. It's a deflection point. So let's talk about what's actually going on. By the way, meanwhile, eggs are expensive as hell. Attacks, those are happening. Cheap eggs, not happening. So far, the crazy people who were sounding the alarm are sounding pretty correct. Why are eggs expensive? Because it never had anything to do with the president. Bird flu, chickens and ducks are getting killed. Makes the product more scarce, less availability. Price goes up. It's not that hard. There aren't as many eggs. People are eating the shit out of eggs. Every other reel or Instagram video, or when I was on TikTok, every other one seems like somebody trying to cook an egg. Eggs are everywhere. Of course they're expensive. But that's not the point. The language. Female means a person belonging. Male means a person belonging. Okay. What's a person? Let's talk about corporations and segue into billionaires here. You've probably heard before that corporations have personhood in the U.S. See why that is so important? What's a person? How did that happen? How did it evolve? Right? In light of Trump's executive order, which is very clear that a person can only have one of two genders based on very impossible to apply standards. But I didn't see any language in that executive order how to determine if a corporation, which is a person, is that corporation now a man or a woman? How do you know? It told us that a person has to be categorized in this way. But in all seriousness, I know some folks are trying to stop using companies that dropped DEI, and I get that. I understand why, but let's be truly brutally honest here. Most companies added DEI because, one, their lawyers told them it would help with claims, and two, it seemed to be expedient for best business practices. The second, the requirements are dropped. The second, that they know there's not a federal agency looking for the issues that's going to bring actions from the DOJ. Why are you shocked to see profit machines cut a cost? Of course they're going to get rid of it. So in the end, we may have to just, live off of Ben and Jerry's and bartered crops with one another. But I'm kidding a little bit, but it does help break into the point here. Our treatment of corporations as people has helped lead to the rise of an oligarchy that at this moment in time, right now, it's far more important to understand that reality than whether or not Target has mandatory sensitivity training. So corporations are people. Here's what may be a new fact for you. Corporations have legally been persons since 1906 in the United States. The doctrine began in the late 1860s, but 1906 is the case that kind of sets it in place. 6 years before the Titanic sank, 1906, 1912 Titanic. It's 91 years before Leo got kicked off that floating door. The average age of death in the United States in 1906, it was 46.9 years, so 47 years for men and 51 years for women. Yeah. There's a really good summary from the Brennan Center that I've linked in the show notes if you want to dive into kind of the details of corporate personhood in terms of the case law and everything like that. I'm not going to touch on every single case here because it's not that important which case did what. What's important is to understand where it's at and kind of how it got here. So this is an excerpt that I found very interesting that sort of helps lay it out from the Brennan Center. This is the part I'm going to give you. The 14th Amendment, adopted after the Civil War in 1868 to grant emancipated slaves full citizenship, states, "No state shall deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person the equal protection of the laws." We have the likes of former U.S. Senator Roscoe Conkling to thank for the extension of equal protection to corporations. Conkling helped draft the 14th Amendment. He then left the Senate to become a lawyer. His Gilded Age law practice was going so swimmingly that Conkling turned down a seat to the Supreme Court not once but twice. Conkling argued that the Supreme Court in San Mateo County versus Southern Pacific Railroad that the 14th Amendment is not limited to natural persons. In 1882, he produced a journal that seemed to show that the Joint Congressional Committee that drafted the amendment vacillated between using citizen and person, and the drafters chose person specifically to cover corporations, according to historian Howard J. Graham. Quote, this part of Conkling's argument was a deliberate, brazen forgery. All that's from that Brennan Center corporate personhood summary piece. Again, link in the show notes. I read that part of it, and I thought, yeah, that's how precedent is won, slowly over time. That case in the 19th century, it planted a seed that would grow eventually into Citizens United and Hobby Lobby, religious freedom for corporations, speech freedom for corporations, money freedom as speech. While some may look at that and go, well, money is speech. Okay, well, I still don't understand how a corporation gets the same rights. Corporations have rights. Speech rights is one of the main ones. More importantly, a corporation can die and leave its money to its owners and then be reborn. A corporation can discharge debts far more easily than a person, and a corporation can shield a bad actor from personal liability. A corporation is a sword, a shield, and a money tree all at the same time, which leads us to the rise of the billionaires. All right, billionaires. I want you to think of the person you know, like you really know them. You've been to their house. You know their kids, their partner, their middle name, the person you really know with the most money. Think about them. Picture them. Are they a billionaire? Probably not. If they're well off, maybe a really nice house, a second house in Tucson or somewhere on the Gulf Coast, right? Real money, not lake house money. For those of you not from Missouri, lake house money means you have a house at like the Lake of the Ozarks, which is a place to show off for the upper middle class of Missouri, especially the St. Louis folks. They really, really, really love having places at the Lake of the Ozarks. It's not a fun place anymore. It used to be a very fun place. It's not anymore. But anyway, that lake house money, right? Those people are probably millionaires. They're probably doing fine. The UBS Global Wealth Report for 2024 estimates that 1 in 15 Americans, 1 in 15, are millionaires. That's basically 22, 23 million people. That's a lot. Basically the same as the population of Taiwan. It's more than the entire population of the Netherlands by like a chunk. But $1 million, in reality, it's just not that much money when we're talking about true wealth concentration. Right, 22 to 23 million people are all qualified as millionaires. Even if every single one of those people had $10 million, they still wouldn't have $1 billion. Okay? According to Forbes, link in the show notes, there are now more billionaires than ever, 2,781 in all, 141 more than last year and 26 more than the record set in 2021. 26 more billionaires than the record set in 2021. If all the millionaires in the United States had $10 million, they wouldn't together be one billionaire. There are now 26 more billionaires than the record set in 2021. They're richer than ever, worth $14.2 trillion in aggregate, up by $2 trillion from 2023 and $1.1 trillion above the previous record also set in 2021. Get out your phone, get out a piece of paper, make the number 1 trillion. It's huge. They're richer than ever. We're breaking records that were set in 2021. 2/3 of the list members are worth more than a year ago. 2/3 are worth more. 66% of billionaires got more rich this year. 1/4, 25%, got poorer, which is an insane word to use in this context. They got less rich. They didn't get poorer, they got less rich. Much of the gains come from the top 20. So even in the billionaire class, 2,781 billionaires, the top 20 got most of the gains. So even in the top of the top, that's still where the biggest gains are going. They added a combined $700 billion in wealth since 2023. And from the U.S., which now boasts a record 813 billionaires, worth a combined $5.7 trillion. China remains second with 473 billionaires with $1.7 trillion in value. And India coming in with 200 billionaires, also a record, ranks third. U.S., China, India makes up about half of all the billionaires. And the United States has 813 out of 2,781. That's crazy. The United States has more than a quarter of the billionaires in the world. Now here's some math. To spend $1 billion in a year, you could do that by spending $2.74 million every single day. $2.74 million every single day. That's hard to do. The median net worth of a U.S. household, just under $200,000. It would take 5,000 days, 5,000 days, spending the median U.S. household net worth, which is $200,000. It would take 5,000 days to spend $1 billion. That's almost 14 years. In Missouri, the average teacher salary is $44,000 a year. $44,000 a year. It would take 22,000 years to become a billionaire at that rate. Take a second. Let that wash over you. At $44,000 a year, what we pay your average teacher in Missouri, it would take 22,000 years to become a billionaire at that rate. You get the point? $1 billion is a lot of money. It's not being secure or being well off. It's not having the luxury of not having to worry paycheck to paycheck. It's not having a nice savings. It's not having the ability to go on a cruise. It's not having the ability to go chill out on a boat on a lake. It's being insulated from the world, being insulated from legal issues, being insulated from all insecurity. It's why when someone like Trump or Elon or Zuckerberg or Bezos talk about their policy views, they don't care at all about who gets hurt. Having $1 billion, just $1 billion, means you don't have to care about the other humans. They built this wealth based on a system that says a corporation is a person with rights. Meanwhile, they are perfectly okay treating real people as less than human while attacking their rights. So maybe it's about Democrats versus Republicans, but if you ask me, I think the parties are just another form of entertainment, wine and bread, a distraction from the real issue. The intentional destruction of human rights to serve the pockets of the 2,781 people sitting at the top, laughing as we fight over the red team and the blue team. And it leaves me with a final question. What gender is Wal-Mart? Well, hopefully you're hearing this after another major Chiefs win. I'm hoping to have a show for you next week. But if the Chiefs make the Super Bowl, if they made the Super Bowl, you can guess I won't do a show that week. I won't be going to the game this week. I was there last week, and I'm recovering this week from being sick. Maybe you can hear it in my voice, but going to take the week off and hang out at home with the girls while my wife and son and some other family members go to the game and cheer on the Chiefs. Really, really excited for the three-peat possibility. And if you're not a Chiefs fan listening to this, I don't really know what to tell you. I'm sorry, I guess. I don't know. Or maybe we lost and you're laughing and I'm crying, in which case, congratulations. and it was never the refs. I hope you get to enjoy some warmer temps this week as we seem to finally thaw out. It's been a long, cold month. I know that. But days are getting longer, and we keep moving forward. So until next time, be well.
The process is made possible by listener support through Patreon. Go to patreon.com/theprocess or search The Process on Patreon. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for those of you who support me through Patreon to help me make this content and continue making it as long as possible. Enjoy American Aquarium, the world on fire.
TV, trying to find some meaning, hoping that we'd wake up from this dream sometime tomorrow. Well, the night came and went, not a damn thing had changed. That's when I saw a tear fall from her eyes. She said, what are we gonna do? What's this world coming to? And for the first time in my whole life, I stood there speechless. The load is heavy and the road is long, and we've only begun to fight. We just can't give in, we just can't give up. We must go boldly into the darkness and be the light. So I packed up my car and went looking for answers to the questions weighing on my mind. When did the land of the free become the home of the afraid? Afraid of the world, afraid of the truth, afraid of each other. This ain't the country my grandfather fought for, but I still see the hate he fought against. Give rest to the tired, give mercy to the poor, give warmth to the huddled masses, and I'll show you freedom. The load is heavy and the road is long, and we've only begun to fight. We just can't give in, we just can't give up. We must go boldly into the darkness and be the light. I got a baby girl coming in the spring. I worry about the world she's coming into, but she'll have my fight, she'll have her mama's fire. If anyone builds a wall in her journey, baby, bust right through. The load is heavy and the road is long, and we've only begun to fight. We just can't give in, we just can't give up. and be the light.